Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, based on your time zone. Welcome in Salesforce Epics Hour. My name is Amit Chaudhary. I'm the founder and the host of Epics Hour. And today we have a great speaker from the Salesforce team. His name is Georgie. Let me hand over to him for his introduction and the presentation. Hand over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us for Apex Hours today. My name is Georgi Savelyev. I'll be doing an introduction to Salesforce Industries CPQ. So before we kick off, I think everyone should be familiar with this forward-looking statement, safe harbor. I'll generally be talking about things that are GA in the product today, but make sure you make your purchasing decisions based on what's in the product, not what's on the roadmap. All right, so to introduce myself in more detail, again, my name is Georgi Savelyev. I'm a senior program architect at Salesforce Industries, specifically aligned to Communications Cloud. A few facts about myself, like personal and work experience before we get into the content. So I'm originally from Russia. I grew up in the US, thus the name and American accent. And my name is pronounced Georgi with a soft G, not Georgie. So I know it's a tough one, but there you go. And then I've relocated and traveled quite extensively. So I'm originally born in Russia, grew up in the US, moved back to Russia for a bit. I was in Amsterdam for a few years with Vlocity, and then relocated recently to Singapore. So now I'm in Singapore. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for 7+ years. I started my Salesforce journey back in 2013 at General Electric when I was at an end customer doing a massive Aptus CPQ implementation. I kind of fell in love with Salesforce in the CPQ space. Then I moved on to an SI, then joined Vlocity, and through the Vlocity acquisition, I'm now a Salesforce employee. So why am I presenting on Salesforce Industries CPQ? I've been involved in 8 different communication cloud implementations, and I was actually on the team that wrote the Industry CPQ developer certification. So, hopefully I'm kind of a subject matter expert and can share some insights with you. Also, I've extensively done some certifications. I have 34 as of today, targeting CTA, not there yet, but hopefully in the next few months. And beyond work, I'm a co-founder of the Benelux CTA study group. If you're preparing for CTA, that's a great one. Feel free to reach out to the hosts if you're, the event organizers if you're interested. I can loop you in as well. And I also co-founded the Moscow Developer User Group. Our website is sfcommunity.ru. And then just a couple pictures here. This is our Benelux CTA study group maybe 2 years ago when we had the luxury of meeting in person. And then this is our very first Moscow user group meeting back in like February of last year, right before COVID hit. And here's our logo. All right, so getting into the details, today we're going to be talking about not Vlocity CPQ, but Industry Cloud and Industry CPQ. I was trying to think, if I wasn't familiar with Industry CPQ, what would be the first question on my mind? And I was thinking probably, Salesforce has 2 CPQ products. There's Salesforce CPQ and Industry CPQ. What's the difference? Why would I choose one over the other? So we'll touch on that topic. We'll do an overview of CPQ. We'll talk about Enterprise Product Catalog and CPQ, a few specific points there. So we'll go through the basics. We'll talk about pricing and promotions, rules and interfaces, and some advanced topics and functionalities that we won't have time to go into, but just to give you a flavor of what's available. And then during these points, I'll also do some demos in between. So we'll get to see some slides and understand the concepts and then actually see it in the system as well. And finally, we'll touch on enablement resources. So, how can I learn more? Where can I prepare for the exam materials and so on? And we'll try to leave a few minutes for Q&A. So the general idea here is to at least touch on all of the topics that are covered in the certification and generally that you would need to know as a CPQ developer or consultant, but we won't be able to go into super detail on that. So let's begin. To be able to talk about Industry CPQ, I really need to talk about what is Salesforce Industries. So Salesforce Industries specifically covers 12 industry clouds today, and 6 of these are what was formerly called Vlocity. And these are the ones that I have circled in blue here. And then for Industry CPQ, we have Communications Cloud, Media Cloud, Energy and Utility Cloud. CPQ is one module that's available as part of the overall Industry Cloud, and you, at least as of today, cannot purchase it separately from Industry Cloud. So, when we talk about CPQ, we're not just talking about CPQ, but we're talking about one module within the whole cloud. So it's important to keep that in mind. To expand a little bit on that, here is the solution map for one of our industry clouds, specifically Communications Cloud. I work in Communications Cloud, so I'm the most familiar with this, but the other clouds are similar to this, specifically Media and Energy. They look quite similar to this, but there are a few differences in terms of modules and specific details, but just to give you a flavor of what this looks like. So we have the Customer 360 platform, Salesforce, the platform. We have Sales Cloud, Service Cloud. These are all of the horizontal pieces that are not industry specific, are not formerly Vlocity. This middle piece is what was formerly Vlocity and what really encompasses Communications Cloud. And today we'll be talking primarily about these two modules, CPQ, Configure Price Quote, and Digital Commerce, which is actually a piece of CPQ, and we'll understand what exactly is digital commerce as well. And for CPQ, we need to be able to design the products, design the rules, design the pricing. All of that happens in Enterprise Product Catalog, or EPC. So we'll take a look at that as well. And then maybe in future sessions, we can touch on some of these other modules as well. So let's talk about the customer journey and where CPQ fits in. So if we think about maybe a B2B customer journey, for example, we start the journey where the customer understands that they're interested in our product, they want our product. That happens as a piece of marketing. This happens in Marketing Cloud. Then we move over to the sales process where the customer is interested in buying something. And so we have them in the lead in the system. This happens as part of Sales Cloud. Then they become an opportunity. This happens in Sales Cloud. And then we start moving into the Industry CPQ piece here. So from the opportunity, we can use the CPQ configurator. We can also do that on the quote and order. From the quote and order, then you can have a contract. You have the contract lifecycle management module within Communications Cloud. From there, we have fulfillment. We can also use B2C Commerce Cloud, and there's a connector between Industry CPQ and B2C Commerce Cloud. We have the online experience for customers to interact with our brand, use the website to place orders and so on. And then we have the service piece of after the purchase to get service, when you're having issues with the product, if you have any questions, whatever. This is covering the Service Cloud and field service functionalities. So in blue specifically is where CPQ fits in, and we'll talk about this in more detail in further slides. So again, to touch on this topic of Salesforce CPQ and Industry CPQ, if you're not familiar with either of these, you might be wondering, why does Salesforce have two CPQ products? And here we'll understand that in a bit more detail. So Salesforce CPQ, which is formerly SteelBrick, is a horizontal CPQ and billing application. Horizontal meaning it's not specific to an industry. It's a general application that could fit with some configuration customization to any industry. And Industry CPQ, which is formerly called Vlocity CPQ, is a module included within various industry clouds, specifically communications, media, and energy and utilities. Here I took a screenshot of the product pricing page from the Salesforce website, where we can see that CPQ is sold as a separate product. It's not specific to any industry. It has these functionalities that are shown. And then Industry CPQ is only a module within Communications Cloud and these other clouds. It isn't sold separately. So we really can't compare these apples to apples, because we have a CPQ application on one side and an industry cloud application that contains a CPQ on the other side. And then at a high level, both products support many of the same functionalities. So we have the ability to do design time, product, and pricing definition. Transactionally, when we create a quote or order, whatever, we can configure the products, add them to the cart, see their pricing. They both support complex pricing, like based on contracts, slab, quantity-based, all of that good stuff. We can do approvals based on these quotes and orders. We can generate documents based on the line items from the quotes and orders and the pricing. They have contract lifecycle management functionalities. They both have order management. Again, there's Salesforce order management, which is horizontal, and Industries order management, which is vertical specific. And they both support amendments on what you've purchased in the past. So let's say you purchase a mobile plan with, I don't know, 30 gigabytes. You decide that's not enough. You want to upgrade it to 50 gigabytes. Both products support that sort of thing of modifying what you've purchased in the past. So this makes sense. Both are CPQ tools, right? So what's the difference with Industry CPQ? We'll look at a few key industry-specific features. We won't go over these in much detail today, but just to give you a flavor. So in terms of APIs, there are headless CPQ cart and digital commerce APIs. So this is if you want to build a B2C or B2B application using a third-party web or mobile app, and have CPQ handle the rules and pricing for you. So some of our customers have, their as a telco, they have their third-party website hosted on some platform. Could be Adobe Experience Manager, could be something else, and then it's using APIs to call Industry CPQ. There's a UI on top of it, and then that's where all of the magic happens, where from the customer perspective, you don't even realize it's Salesforce, but behind the scenes, Salesforce is handling the pricing, configuration, and fulfillment for you. Another important factor is the seamless integration to Industries order management. So order management is one of the other modules within Industry Cloud. And this is a really powerful thing, especially in telco, where you can decompose from commercial products to technical products so that you can have a simple commercial product that your customer sees. But really on the network side, you have a simple mobile plan that decomposes to like 20 different things. You can hide that complexity from the commercial point of view. And this whole integration is out of box because it's all included within Industry Cloud. We also have the modification of assets and amending in-flight orders. So let's say that you, as a customer, you order a VPN or fiber internet, and it takes maybe a week, 2 weeks to fulfill those products. Maybe 3 days after you place the order, you decide, oh, actually, I don't want 1 gigabyte per second. I actually want 10 gigabyte per second. You can in-flight modify the order. That will get sent down to OM so that it's provisioned and everything, and you're able to make modifications on the existing orders and have them correctly provisioned. Another functionality is change of plans. So you can, as a customer, you can migrate from a medium plan, for example, to a large plan, or migrate from a mobile-only plan to mobile plus internet. And this enables you to do so without having service interruptions. So one option would be, you terminate your medium plan and then you fulfill a new large plan, but then that results in you losing service for some period of time. With this change of plans functionality, you can do it without service interruption. And finally, one other example, we have multi-site quoting and ordering. So let's say that you're a telco and you're selling telco services to maybe a hotel chain. They have 20 different hotels that they want to purchase services for. This multi-site quoting and ordering allows you to do that quoting for all 20 sites at the same time, be able to have different configurations for each site or groups of sites without having to manage 20 different disjointed quotes and orders and losing track of what's actually going on. So a question might be, how do I decide for my customer or for myself which product I should go with, Salesforce CPQ or Industry CPQ? I tried to put together a really simple flow chart. So the first question to ask yourself is, which industry is this? And really, it doesn't matter. Just talk to your Salesforce account team. That's the easy way out. But if we look at this a different way, really, it's quite simple. If your industry is communications, media, or energy, go Industry Cloud, which means Industry CPQ. If you have another industry, then you go Salesforce CPQ. It's really that simple. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the functionalities in Industries CPQ, and we'll start going into the demo in a bit shortly as well. So in terms of key functionalities, we talked about this a little bit. You know, CPQ stands for Configure, Price, Quote. This is the way that you can configure an order, have it priced, be able to generate a document to your customer showing, you know, you're ordering all of this stuff, it will cost you X dollars, that sort of thing. So this is just the core functionality behind CPQ. The other piece is specific for Industry CPQ is there's seamless integration to Sales and Service Cloud. What I mean by this is if we take Salesforce CPQ, for example, there's a custom object called, I think, Steelbrick Quote, which is separate from the standard quote object. And you can only do the quoting on that specific object. From my past experience with Apttus, there's a Apttus quote object. And again, this is separate from the standard opportunity quote order object. In Industry CPQ, it's a bit different. It works with the same out-of-box opportunity quote and order objects that you know and love from Sales and Service Cloud. It just extends them with additional custom fields, relationships, and so on. So you're able to take your opportunity that you use for opportunity forecasting in Salesforce Sales Cloud, and then use the configurator on top of it. And then again, Industries order management integration. So this is separate from the Salesforce horizontal order management, but this is a really powerful integration where, because they're both built on the same platform, you can submit your order that you configure in CPQ to order management. Order management will decompose it from commercial products to technical products, fulfill it for you, and then those fulfilled items will be reflected as assets. And then you can do what's called a move, add, change, delete on those assets, which is modifying them. So to give an example, let's say that we place an order for a mobile plan, a medium plan that comes with 30 gigabytes. The user decides that they want to add a roaming subscription on top of it that they didn't originally buy. They can do this move, add, change, delete, MACD order that will modify that asset, add roaming on top of it, provision it, and update the assets so that, you know, now you have a mobile plan with roaming. And then in terms of user interface, so we have maybe 3 or 4 options here. The typical one that's used on most implementations is the CPQ cart. You can see the screenshot down here. We'll see the cart in the demo in a few minutes here. So the cart is a shopping cart UI where agents can add, configure, and remove products. Currently, this is Angular based, and Safe Harbor, there is a in the upcoming releases, there will be an LWC version of this, and both this and the future LWC cart are very configurable. You can change, you know, what fields you're seeing here. You can change the styling, all of that stuff. So it's quite flexible, and you know, here's what it looks like out of box. Another option is if you are on the previous session with Omni Studio, you can actually you can build your own OmniScript. The OmniScript can leverage the APIs behind CPQ and use that to, you know, display a list of products to the customer, have the customer go through a series of steps where they configure them. You know, you do customer verification, you generate a contract, you generate a document, you have them sign it. You can do all of that through a guided selling OmniScript using the APIs. And finally, there are the digital commerce Lightning web components and digital commerce web components. These are pre-built web components or LWCs, depending on if you're off or on platform, where these give you a UI on top of the digital commerce APIs. And here's a screenshot of what it looks like. So as a customer, if you want something like this, you know, internal for your agents within Salesforce, or maybe external on your third-party website, you can leverage this as a starting point and then, you know, customize, style it to your exact requirements and branding. So let's talk a little bit more about digital commerce. So digital commerce APIs are a high volume customer facing set of APIs, providing a caching layer on top of the cart or CPQ APIs. So the difference between the CPQ APIs and the digital commerce APIs are digital commerce APIs support both guest and authenticated users, whereas the CPQ APIs support just authenticated users. And they provide a caching layer on top, so you get the additional performance benefits there. Also, if you are a B2C Commerce Cloud customer and you use either Communications or Media Cloud, there is a Communications/Media Cloud and B2C Commerce Cloud connector where it will help you leverage digital commerce on your B2C commerce store storefront. So rather than you having to build your own UI and build the connector and everything, it's available there for you. Also, if you have very high volumes, let's say you have millions of customers hitting your website on an iPhone launch or Black Friday or something like that, there's this digital commerce gateway. This is a off-platform product that is a add-on, and it provides super high scalability during those peak periods. Beyond that, we can leverage the digital commerce LWCs, which we saw on the last slide, or the web components, depending on if we're on or off platform, as a starting point for building your UI. And you can also leverage the digital commerce APIs from a guided selling OmniScript. And then the guided selling OmniScript is just a series of steps that your agent or customer would go through that leverage either digital commerce or CPQ APIs. And the really cool thing is with OmniScript, there's something called OmniOut, where you can take the same OmniScript that you have inside of Salesforce, whether it's within Lightning or within a community, and export it to some third-party website. So for example, if you're using Adobe Experience Manager as your external customer-facing website, you can export your OmniScript via OmniOut, deploy it onto Adobe Experience Manager, and then it will function, the same as if it were on platform within Lightning, but it just uses APIs behind the scenes. So this is something really cool, and maybe we can do a future session on that. But in terms of digital commerce, we won't really go through this in more detail. We'll focus on CPQ, and you can think of digital commerce as something on top of CPQ. It has very similar functionalities, but really built for additional scalability and performance. And by the way, I see some raised hands. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat. We will have time for Q&A at the end, and I will try and look through the questions and answer them during the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please post them there. All right, so let's go through a demo. So what we'll do is I'll show you the configurator. So what I'll do here is I have a demo org set up here. We went to an account record, the Smith Boston residence. This would be the standard account record in Salesforce, and we'll create a order. This is the standard order object in Salesforce. So I'll call it hello Apex hours. Also start date. The account defaults to the same one I just picked. And we have a price list. So price list, we'll talk about this in a moment. You can think of it as the Industries CPQ version of a price book for now. So I'll go ahead and save that. We have an order now, and let me launch the configurator. So I'll click on this configure button, and this will open up the CPQ cart. All right, so here we have the cart. At the top, we have the header. We can see the order name is up here. We can see the order status is here. We have the price lists. In this case, I just have one configured in the system, so we don't see anything in the dropdown. We have some Vlocity actions that can take us back to the order record page. We can generate a document PDF. We can do a few other things. You can configure these actions. What are the conditions behind when they display or not, and what actual action do they do? For example, launching an OmniScript. But we'll focus on the bottom piece here. So on the left-hand side, we have the product selector. So here we have a few tabs. We have products, promotions, and discounts. We'll start with products for now. So in the product selector, we can scroll down here, see what are all of the products available. We have a search available. So let me search for one of my products, and I'll add it to the cart to see what it looks like then. So I'll search for Blaze dedicated internet offer. I see my product here, and I will add it to the cart. So on the right-hand side of the cart, we have what's actually inside of my cart. Basically, what are the order items that I have on my order? And again, these are the standard order and order item objects within Salesforce. And we can see that we have the product, but there's actually a second product that appeared. Why is that? So Here we have a commercial offer. This is also called a bundle. This is a product in itself, and this has become a order item. And then we see underneath it, it has a child item called Professional Business Service Install. So this is one of the core functionalities of CPQ. Salesforce CPQ has the same concept. Other CPQ tools have the same concept of product structure and bundling. So this is the ability to have one product that has other products within it as children. You can have multiple layers of this. You can have a bundle within a bundle, all of that good stuff. On the right-hand side here, we'll see various pricing that we have available, and we have the quantity as well. So the quantity is, how many instances of this am I ordering? And then we have different flavors of pricing. So let me talk through the different flavors. We have usage pricing. So it doesn't really apply for this product, but you can think of usage pricing as what is the price to actually use this product? So it could be something like, let's say, for roaming, you pay for roaming as you use it rather than pay for it upfront. So this could be something like, for every 1 megabyte of data, I pay 10 cents or something. That could be your usage price. It doesn't apply for this product, so it's 0 here. We also have margins. So margins probably more applicable for B2B, but if you want to be able to show your sales reps, what is the cost compared to the price and what is the margin for the company, and perhaps have approval processes behind that, you can have that as well. In this case, because the cost and price for the usage is 0, we have 0%. Now we get into the more applicable pricing. So we have recurring charges. So the recurring charges are charges that we charge the customer for a specific service. So this would be for this specific Blaze dedicated internet offer, the customer is going to pay $550 per month for that service while they're getting the service. And then we have the charge and the total. So the total is basically the roll-up of all of the children. In this case, the child has 0 pricing. We just have pricing defined at the bundle. And then finally, we have the one-time charges. So one-time charges are typically installation charges or perhaps first month charge, that sort of thing. So in this case, for installing this product, we have a separate install product. It has a one-time charge of 500, and then you can see on the parent, it has a charge of 0. So we roll up the 500 and we get a 500 at the bundle level. And then we can see the margins on the recurring and one-time as well. So one other thing to highlight as well is here we saw the product and pricing. One other thing that's very powerful about Industry CPQ is the attributes. So attributes are these things that we see here. They're usually additional information about the products that we have. So in this case, for internet, the additional attributes could be whether it's Ethernet, ADSL, wireless LAN, whatever. It could be the bandwidth. And these attributes can fire rules, they can be dictated by rules, and they can influence the pricing as well. So let's take a look at how it influences pricing. Here we have a recurring charge of $550 when I add this by default, and the committed bandwidth is 20 megabytes per second. So if I modify this and change it to 250 megabits per second, keep an eye out on this price. We'll see it gets updated to $650 for the recurring charge, and the one-time charge stays the same. So this is a really powerful tool where you can have attributes that are stored in JSON rather than custom fields, and then they can influence the price and rules and other things. So let's say that for this customer, they're really keen on this product, but $650 is a bit out of their budget. Let's say that they're willing to spend maximum $400. What we can do is apply an adjustment to it. So I, as a sales rep, can override the price, whether an actual override or subtract a certain dollar amount. So let's say that the customer wants some kind of discount. I can set a price adjustment of $250 at the bundle level. So what this will do is update the price to 400. You can see now that the 650 is crossed out, we have 400, and that influences our margin as well. I think the margin before was 450%, now it's 300. All right, so that was a quick peek at the CPQ functionality. Let me just show the order management side of things as well. I won't really explain what's happening in much detail, but just to give you a flavor of why the CPQ to order management integration is powerful. So what I'll do is we'll say that the customer is happy with this product. They're happy with the pricing now. Everything is good to go. Now we submit the order. So what's happening behind the scenes is we're decomposing the order. In EPC, we have commercial products, technical products, and the mapping between them. Then it will kick off the order management flow, and I'll show you in a second what that looks like. So I'll go to the orders. I'll open my Hello Apex Hours. I will go to the Decomposition tab here. So if you remember, what we just saw in the cart is 2 line items. There was the Blaze dedicated internet offer and a child product professional business service install. And you'll see in this decomposition screen, on the right-hand side, I have some new products that we haven't seen before. So what's going on here? If I click on this link here, what I'll see is the decomposition between the products. So here we have our commercial products, basically what our customers see. And here we have our technical products, basically what do our downstream systems see, care about, fulfill, that sort of thing. So here we can see that this commercial product decomposes to all of these technical products. I won't go into detail what's going on here, but you can just imagine that we're kind of abstracting the complexity of the downstream systems from the customer, but still we have this mapping of the commercial to the technical product so that we can fulfill it properly. So this decomposition is basically an input for order management, and then order management at runtime consists of the orchestration plan, which is basically how this order is fulfilled. So again, I won't explain this in detail, but I'll just show the flow chart here. This is what the order management orchestration plan looks like. So what happens is it decomposed the commercial products to technical products. It built the orchestration plan based on what's configured in the system. And we can see that this is the sequence of actions that needs to happen for this order to be fully fulfilled. And then you can see that they can be sequential, they can happen in parallel. In this case, this item needs this item to complete and this item to complete before it will execute this item. In this case, everything's fully automated, so the order completes very quickly. What I can do is go back to my account page. I'll show you the account itself. And we can see now we have an asset available in the system. And this is the same standard asset object that's available in Sales and Service Cloud. So now we have that product available as an asset where we can disconnect it, modify it, all of that good stuff. All right, so let's go back to the presentation. All right, so we saw a little bit about how CPQ works at runtime. Now we'll talk about Enterprise Product Catalog. You may be thinking, why are we talking about Enterprise Product Catalog? We're supposed to be talking about CPQ. Let me fill you in. So the Enterprise Product Catalog is kind of an input for CPQ and order management, actually. So Enterprise Product Catalog is where you design your products, design the pricing, create the rules, all of that stuff. So this is where we do product design, product lifecycle management, product publishing. And then ultimately, this is an input for CPQ and digital commerce. And then in CPQ and digital commerce, we do order capture. This is via the configurator that I was showing, or the same thing via API. We have the multi-site quoting, MACD orders, contract management, all of that stuff happens within CPQ and DC. So this is the stuff that we're going to focus on today. But everything that I just showed quickly in order management with a decomposition orchestration, that is also configured in EPC and is working on the same catalog. So just keep that in mind. And the reason why we're talking about this again is because here's where you design the products, and then here's where you actually sell the products to customers. So the key functionalities of EPC, just to give you some context, are the definition of commercial and technical products. So again, this is to be able to have a simple commercial products the way your customers see them, and then the more complex technical products the way your downstream systems see them, so that we can fulfill those orders correctly. Another key point is that we have industry standards compliance. So within communications specifically, there's something called TM Forum, which is the industry body for the communications or telco industries. And there's something called SID, which is kind of a product modeling paradigm that breaks product modeling into various layers. There's something called offers, products, CFS or customer facing services, RFS, which is resource facing services, and resources. If you're not in the telco industry, probably this means nothing to you, but if you're in the telco industry, probably this is familiar. Basically, Vlocity supports modeling all of these different layers of TM Forum SID. Or sorry, Communications Cloud supports all of these layers of TM Forum SID. There's also a concept of product versioning. So product versioning is, let's say that, today we sell, I don't know, up to maybe 100 gigabytes of mobile bandwidth that your customers can have. And then tomorrow we decide to increase the allocation from 100 to 200. Product versioning allows you to define, the 100 as version 1, 200 as version 2, and to be able to say that, okay, this asset is tied to version 1. When they want to make a change of it, we know now version 2 is active, and we can manage the whole change between versions and all of that stuff. So this is a really powerful feature. There's also offer specification. Again, this is linked to the industry standards TM Forum, where you can define offer specifications and offers that inherit those specifications. We also support multi-language, multi-currency. So you can, for multi-language, you can define different translations for all of your data. So in Salesforce, we have Translation Workbench that allows us to translate metadata. Here, the Industry CPQ translation functionality allows us to translate the actual product data. So we can translate the product names, descriptions, pricing, all of that stuff. And finally, you can configure, extend, and customize all of this stuff. So we'll see the enterprise product UI in a bit. It's all built with Lightning App Builder and Lightning Web Components and standard Lightning pages and stuff. So you're more than welcome to customize, configure all of this stuff, even build your own components and put them into the designers. So speaking of the user interface, it's broken into kind of 3 pieces. We have the enterprise product catalog. This is the module behind it. And then there are a few user interfaces. There's the product designer and pricing designer. I'll show these in the demo in a moment. These are Salesforce Lightning apps that are using Lightning pages and web LWCs that you use to configure and maintain the EPC. And that's what we see in this bottom screenshot here. We also have the product council. This is the original UI that was released with Industries CPQ a few years back. This is built on Angular. You can see it on the right-hand side here. This will be supported going forward, but going forward, future enhancements will be on product designer and pricing designer. So basically, you want to focus on these. They're not at 100% feature parity yet, pretty close. Safe harbor, I think within the next few releases, they'll be at full parity. So you may have to switch to product council for a few things. In terms of modeling capabilities, we saw a few of these from the cart, but let me speak through them. So we have the ability to define products. These products can be commercial, these can be technical. To give an example, we could have a SIM card, a mobile plan, a handset, for example, your favorite iPhone or Samsung phone. And these are stored in the same product to object that is used for Sales and Service Cloud. We have the concept of bundles. We saw that with the Blaze Internet bundle where it had a child underneath it. You can have nested bundles where your bundle contains a bundle that contains a child product. You can go many, many layers with this. We have attributes. This is what I was showing on the right-hand side of the cart. When I click that configure button, these store product-related information that could be, for example, the bandwidth, handset color, storage size, and these are stored in a JSON rather than custom fields. And then these can influence the rules and pricing. We have object types. We'll see these in a bit more detail. You can think of these as templates that you create products from. This allows you to basically create the object type, set up all of the attributes and stuff on it. For example, you create a mobile device object type, you set handset color, storage size, manufacturer as attributes on there. And then any product you create on the object type will modify or will inherit those attributes, so that you don't have to, for each handset, define the fact that it has those 3 attributes on it. It gets inherited. We have rules and pricing, which we'll talk about in more detail in the further section, and see some demos, and the same with promotions. So I'll leave those for a moment. So to talk through attributes in a bit more detail, attributes allow us to model flexible product-related characteristics. They're stored in a JSON rather than in individual standard or custom fields. There's one custom field that's a part of Industries CPQ called JSON attribute, and all of the attributes that you have configured on your product or line items are stored inside of that field. And then these attributes are used for order capture. We saw that in that order I was showing, I configured the bandwidth, and it's also used for fulfillment in order management. So you can capture the fact that the customer selected, 250 megabytes per second, send that to order management, so that order management can say, hey, downstream system, you need to fulfill this internet with a bandwidth of 250 megabytes per second. Object types, again, this is how we define templates that we create products from. This supports a hierarchy. So you can see in this screenshot, this is in EPC how I configure the different object types. We start based on the product 2, and then we configure a hierarchy of the different object types that we want. So in this example, we have product 2. Underneath it has common object descriptor, and then the actual object types sit underneath here. So for a handset, we have devices underneath, and then mobile phone underneath that. And we can see that it has these 6 attributes defined against it. So we have the device manufacturer, color, storage, OS, network capability, and IMEI. So again, this is how you drive consistency on the products that you create on here, and it saves your product managers from having to assign these attributes over and over for very similar products. Then we have the products themselves. So the products can be something flat, meaning it doesn't have any structure or children. For example, an iPhone 11. Here is a screenshot of the product designer for pulling up a flat product. Or it could have a very complex structure. So in this case, we have a screenshot of the structure tab in the product designer for an IP VPN service. We can see that this is a bundle. It has these children. And then this child on net has this child on net local loop as a grandchild. So you can have nested bundles and see the whole structure in a nice UI like this. The products themselves will inherit the attributes and so on from the object type. You can also define a cardinality. So cardinality means that, let's say for this on-net product, the customer must select one and only one on-net product. That would be the cardinality. You can set the min, maximum, and default, and these can be different values. Let's say maybe, for example, for off-net, we set the minimum to 0, meaning it's optional. We set the default to 0 as well, so it's not added to the cart by default, and we set the maximum to maybe 10. That means that when I add this product, it wouldn't add the child product, but as a user, I can add it and then change the quantity up to 10. And finally, for the product to show in CPQ, we need to define a price for it. All right, so let's take a look at how this works in action. So what I'll do is go to Product Designer. I will open a, let's start with attributes first. And let me open the device storage. So to give an example, here's the device storage attribute. The attribute is kind of a junction between a pick list, or it could be a text or a number type field. In this case, we want it to be a pick list so that we can choose, 64 gigabytes, 128, 256, 512, whatever. And then we can assign it to a category as well. And then these ultimately get assigned to object types and to products. So in this case, this device storage is a junction to the pick list. If we look at the pick list, we can see the values here. In this case, we have these 4 pick list values. So 16, 32, 64, 128. And then this pick list can be used across multiple attributes as needed. And then let me show how that attribute is tied to our object type and the object type hierarchy as well. So here's the object type. You can define these on any Salesforce object, but typically these are most applicable for product 2, which would be what all of our products will end up as. So we start with product 2, we have the common object descriptor, and then our actual object types sit underneath here. In this example, this is my demo org. When you install Communications Cloud or any of the other clouds with CPQ, I think this will be empty, or maybe it has product 2 and the common object descriptor, and then you as a product admin need to define, what are the object types and structure under here. But here we just see some example. So here under devices, I have the mobile phone object type here. And then if I think it's mobile phone spec. Okay, so if I go to the mobile phone object type, go to layout management and scroll down, we can see the 6 attributes that I have assigned here, and we can look at that device storage, which is linked to that attribute that I was just showing you before. And let me show an example of a product as well. So let me open a product with a kind of complex structure so we can see that. Here we have an IP VPN service. So you can think of this as a VPN that a B2B customer would purchase to protect their employees while they're off the network and access internal network resources. If I open the product here, we can see kind of the general information about the product. So this is kind of similar to the page layout that we would have in Salesforce. We can see the details here. I can also see the pricing behind it. We'll touch on this in a bit. And we can see the structure as well. So in this case, we can see that the IP VPN service is a bundle. It has a bunch of child products underneath it. And then this OnNet product itself has a child product, which is this OnNet loop. So one thing I want to do is create a bundle together with you guys. So let me open a order quick. I'll show you what I want to create first. We'll create a new order. I'll add my price list to it. And go to configure. So the bundle that I want to create will be the following. I'll take this Blaze dedicated internet offer and this family mobile bundle, family mobile plan medium here. So right now, these exist as 2 separate bundles that have no relationship to each other. So if I minimize them, we can see that there are 2 separate products that have their own line items and they're in no way connected. Let's say that I decide to start selling these together. So I want to sell Blaze Internet plus Family Mobile Plan together as a single bundle. How do we do that? So what I'll do is I'll go to products. I'll create a new product. I'll call it Blaze Internet plus Family Mobile. I'll give it a unique code. I will set it to orderable. This controls that it will actually appear in the left-hand side of the cart so we can add it. I need to choose an object type. In this case, I don't really need to inherit any attributes or anything, so I will use the product 2 one. Then I need to set a spec type. Here I'll do offer because this is a bundle. I'll set the status to active. I'll set this to active, and I'll set the start dates. So I won't go into details about this, but you can control, when it's active from a selling point of view, when it's active from a fulfillment point of view, that sort of thing. So I'll create this product. So now we have a new product to record, but at this point, it doesn't have any structure. It does not have any pricing. So the first thing we need to do is define a pricing for it, because every product that appears in the cart needs to have a price for it to appear. So I'll go ahead and go to the pricing tab here. Here I can see the various types of pricing that we can define. So we can define prices, promotions and offers, or costs. In this case, I'll just define a price. And here I'll say 0 MRC. So what I want to do here is I'll define a virtual price, because I want this bundle itself to just be the roll-up of the child products underneath it. I don't want this bundle itself to have its own price. So what I'll do is define it as a virtual price. This is what you do for these bundles where the price is the rolled up price of the children. I can choose the currency. I'll leave it as USD. I can choose the recurring frequency. Here I'll do monthly recurring. I need to pick a start date. I will pick the 1st of the month and save. And normally what we do is we define a one-time charge and recurring charge. So here I just defined a 0 monthly recurring charge. I will also define a 0 one-time charge. And I will have that start at the beginning of the month. Okay, so here I've defined my pricing. So basically what this means is that this bundle itself won't have a price. It will just be the rolled up price of the children. So the last step here is I need to define what are the actual children. So I'll go in here. Here we can see the structure. Now we see the product itself. It's just a flat product. It doesn't have children right now. I'll go ahead and add my children. So you can see we have a nice drag and drop interface. If you've used Industries CPQ EPC in the past, you'll notice that this is a bit different from the old product console. I like the new UI. So here I will add the family mobile product as well. Yeah. There we go. So now I have my bundle with its 2 children, and we can see that these themselves also have children. So let's say I'm satisfied with this. I don't want to define any cardinality or anything. But let's just take a look at where we can define the cardinality. So here we can define cardinality for this product itself, and we can define group cardinality as well. Where the cardinality would say that for this line item, it can have a minimum of 0, it has a default of 1, and a maximum of almost 100,000. And then I can also define the child quantity, or the group cardinality, which would be like for this Blaze internet bundle, I could say that you can choose maximum of 1 of the children. In this case, I'm fine with just having the children be defaulted and everything. So let's leave it as default. So one thing we need to do before the product is ready to go, we need to run a couple maintenance jobs. So the maintenance jobs are jobs that populate internal cache within Industries CPQ that make the system a bit more performant. So I will just run the jobs quickly. For the CPQ developer certification, you will need to know some of these jobs and what they do. I'll just leave it out of scope for this presentation. All right, so the job's completed. I will close the stuff. I will go back to my order, refresh it. Hopefully I did everything correctly, and we will see our bundle. Here we go. So it's this Blaze Internet and Family Mobile. We'll add it to the cart. And there we go. Let me minimize everything so we can see it. So now we have 3 root line items here. We have our new bundle we just created, and then the 2 previous products that I added. If I expand this, we'll see that inside of this bundle, I have the 2 products that I originally added, and then they have the same children that these products have. And then one more thing, we define this bundle as having a 0 price in itself, and that the price is the rolled up price of the children. So let's see how that's working. So we have the Blaze dedicated internet. We can see that its recurring total is $550. We have our Family Mobile, its recurring total is $40. And then we can see at the bundle level, it rolls up $550 plus $40 is $590. So there we go. There's our pricing roll up in action. And you can see at the bottom here, we can see the order total as well. So this will have all of the sums of the recurring pricing, all of the sums of the one-time pricing, and the addition of the 1 month of monthly cost plus the one-time charge. All right, so that was the EPC Basics. Let's keep going. All right, so let's talk about pricing and promotion in a bit more detail. So I was showing the price list and I mentioned that it's analogous to the price book. Let's look at that in a bit more detail. So the price list and price list entries, which are analogous to price book and price book entries, why do we have a separate object for this? It's because with price book entries, you can only define the price for a specific product once within the same price book. With price lists, we have the flexibility to define multiple prices over multiple time periods and to define, a one-time charge and a monthly recurring charge, for example. So what could be an example of this? Maybe this year we sell our mobile plan for, I don't know, $100. Next year we decide to make it a bit cheaper. We sell it for $80. The following year we sell it for $60. We can model that as one price list with 3 price list entries for that product. With different time periods for them. We have pricing variables. So pricing variables consist of 2 things. There's the charge type and the type. So the charge type is what I was showing in the cart before. So we have those columns for the recurring, one-time, and usage. I explained all of these in the past. So basically recurring is daily, monthly, yearly. These are recurring charges that are charged to our customer on a regular basis, typically for some kind of service. So this could be like the monthly cell phone plan fee. We have one-time. These are upfront fees. So this could be, if you buy a handset out front, you just pay for the whole amount. Or this could be like an installation fee for internet, that sort of thing. We have usage. These are for products that are charged as you use them. So this could be, for example, the price per megabyte for data roaming. We have adjustments. I was showing the application of the adjustment earlier when I gave that $250 discount. You can also define adjustments and have context rules where the adjustments will be automatically applied. We won't go into there during the session, but one thing that you can leverage in the future. And finally, we have 2 different flavors here as well of types. So we have prices, which is everything that I've shown so far. And then we have the costs. The costs are, the cost to the company rather than to the customer. And this drives those margin calculations that we see on the cart. In terms of bundling, we have kind of 2 strategies. We have where the bundle itself has a 0 price. This means that the final price of the item of the bundle is the rolled up price of the children. That's what I just showed in that demo just now. And we can also have a non-zero price where the bundle itself has a price, maybe like $20, and then it's also rolling up the price of the children. So just depending on how you want your pricing to work, you can use either of those approaches. One other note. Inside of a bundle, you can also override the price of the children separately. So let's say that I want my bundle to be $50 and I don't care what the price of the children is, it should always be $50. Then you can override the price of the children to 0, for example. So it's one other way that you can model the bundle pricing. Another important concept is attribute-based pricing. I showed this during the demo as well. Remember when I selected, originally I added the product, it was 20 megabits per second. I changed it to 250 and we saw that the price got modified. That is attribute-based pricing in action. So attribute-based pricing, there are 3 flavors of it and you can also customize it. So let's talk through these one by one. Basically, attribute-based pricing is when we price products based on the attribute values. So this could be, for example, we, depending on the color and storage of an iPhone or Samsung that you select, that will determine the price. That would fall under standard attribute-based pricing, where the attributes of a product determine its price. Another flavor is source target attribute-based pricing. So this is where you have the attributes on one product influence the price of another product. So this could be maybe depending on the internet speed you pick, you will get a different price on the modem that's included with the internet bundle. You could do that sort of thing with source target attribute-based pricing. There's also range attribute-based pricing. This is where the quantity will determine the price, and we have different buckets based on the quantity. So let's say if our quantity is between 1 and 5, the price is 50. If it's between 6 and 10, the price is 40. Beyond 10, the price is 30, something like that. We can use attribute-based pricing there. And finally, the really cool thing about Industries CPQ, if you're more of a developer, and you like coding, is you can write your own attribute-based pricing. We'll talk about that in a moment, where you can write your own custom pricing plan step and then do all kinds of crazy things there. So to give an example, one thing I did on a previous project is we wanted to define attributes on the bundle and then have them roll down to the children and then influence the price of the children. So it's kind of similar to source target attribute-based pricing, but rather than defining every combination of source and target, we just wanted to say, whatever is defined at the parent rolls down to the children. You can do that sort of thing with custom attribute-based pricing. And then to speak a little bit about pricing at runtime. So at runtime, sales reps can apply adjustments. We saw an example of that when I applied that minus $250 adjustment on the recurring charge. You can apply these in 3 different ways. You can do an amount. This could be negative or positive. So if, for example, you want to increase the price because you think your customer has budget, you can do that as well. You can do it based on the percentage, and you can just override the price. So you can say, I just want to override this to $100, for example. These adjustments can be controlled by context rules. So on the screen, let's say that I want to make sure that the margin for a sales rep always stays between, I don't know, like 50% and 120% or something like that. I can define context rules where it will not allow the sales rep to enter like minus 60% because that would fall outside of that range. You can also control that via an approval process, but just to give an example. And you can also define multiple adjustments as well. So in the screenshot, we see the price waterfall where this item has a price of $40. There was one adjustment applied for minus 25, and then another adjustment applied for minus 10%. So it does 40 minus 25 minus 10%, and then we get to the final price. And these are applied sequentially. And then one more thing in terms of pricing, there's a functionality called promotions. So promotions function similar to a product, but it's a separate entity that contains products. So you can think of it as kind of a bundle, but a bit different. The difference is that it applies a time-limited pricing adjustment on top of products. So this could be something like maybe there's a back-to-school promo where for 3 months, I'll reduce the price of the internet by 50%. And then after 3 months, it goes back to its normal price. And then that promotion itself is only available between, I don't know, July and August. So you can do that sort of thing via promotions. And we'll take a look at this in the demo as well. Finally, I saw a question in the chat about, how can we customize this? And can we customize this at all? The answer is yes. So let's say that all of the stuff I talked about before doesn't fit. We look through the docs. There's no configurable way of meeting our business requirements. The good news is pricing is fully customizable. The pricing engine within Vlocity is called the pricing plan, and the pricing plan consists of various steps that execute in sequence. So here we can see that we have 14 pricing plan steps that are available there by default, and you have the flexibility to enable or disable these as you want, and then write your own custom pricing plan step that will get executed, and you can choose where in the sequence it gets executed. The actual code behind this is Apex, and there's a interface you need to implement as part of the Apex class, and a certain way that you do it, but you can basically have a lot of flexibility in this pricing. One important thing to consider is make sure you think about performance while you're doing any customizations. Let's say we want to set our price based on the number of attributes that customer has. You need to think about things like large data volume. If I'm going to query the assets as part of the custom pricing plan step, and then if it does a table scan, it's going to kill performance. So you really need to think about performance while you're doing this. And I see a question in the chat: can we execute these steps conditionally? By default, they're just executed, straight through without any conditions. But you can write your own Apex that will have some kind of condition, and then execute this implementation and method. So the short answer is yes. Long answer is basically, but you need to write an Apex wrapper for it. Okay, let's go to the demo on pricing. So we saw a bit of pricing already, but let me show a couple other things. So I want to show you first, let me open an order. Okay, so I want to show you attribute-based pricing with a bit of a simpler product. I'll add this iPhone 11 to our cart. And take note that its one-time charge is 1,100. I'll go in and configure it. We can see that it has quite a few attributes. A lot of them are read-only. We have the color and storage that are modifiable, and the storage influences the price. So if I change the storage from 128 to 256, keep an eye out on this price, 1,100. And we see it gets updated to 1,150. So let's take a look at where you actually configure this. This attribute-based pricing for the standard one is stored in a calculation matrix. You can think of the matrix as basically rows within an object that have the mapping of the product and attributes to which price it gets. So by default, everything is stored in the same matrix. And it's called attribute pricing matrix. If you want to have multiple matrices, you can do this by writing your own pricing plan step. And then the way it works is inside of the matrix, we can see that we have a UI to expose the data inside of here. The reason for that is the actual data that's shown here is stored in JSON. So it's a bit easier way to view it. And we can see for iPhone 11, we see that we have 6 rows here. And then if I look, the characteristic name, which is the attribute name, is device storage, and the value, which is the attribute value, the value, which is the attribute value, maps to the different pick list values that I can select. So we can see for 128, which is the default, it gets a price of 1,100, and for 256, it gets a price of 1,150. So you can create a new version of the matrix, modify all of this data, activate it, and then you would see that the pricing gets updated in the cart. Okay, so I also wanted to show the executive internet. Sorry, I want to show the Blaze dedicated internet as well. So this is what we saw during the first demo. So for that Blaze dedicated internet offer, it also had attribute-based pricing, and it was based on, in this case, it's based on 2 attributes. So we have the usage type and committed bandwidth. By default, when it gets added to the cart, it gets dynamic rate and 20, which got the price of $5.50. And when I modified it, I kept the dynamic rate as is, and I changed it to $2.50, which resulted in a price of $6.50. So you can do this based on combinations of attributes as well. Okay, and I want to show promotions as well. So I will switch here to the pricing designer. And go to promotions and discounts and open this executive internet seasonal promotion. So let me actually show in the cart, how does this look first? So I'll go to my Hello Apex Hours bundle, open the order, go to configurator. Okay, so I'll go to the promotions tab. And if I look through here, before I was showing just the products tab. Here we have the promotions tab. So this shows just the promotions in the system, and then the promotions can have context rules behind them to specify whether they're qualified and disqualified. We can do the same on products. In this case, I'll add this executive internet seasonal promotion so we can see how it works. So I'll add the promotion. Let me minimize this so we can see. All right, so you can see that we had 4 items in there at the beginning, and we can see as part of this promotion, it actually added 3 additional bundles. So we have this security essentials, we have this consumer landline, and we have this fiber internet extra large. So if I go to the promotions tab here, we can see what promotions are added to the cart. So here I have this executive internet seasonal promotion that I just added. And then on the cart, we can see the line items, the order items that are there. So this promotion itself had 3 products within it. And if we take a look at this security essentials product, we can see that it gets a price override by default. Normally it has a price of $5, but this promotion is overriding the price of this to $0. So basically, this is the power of promotions. Promotions can contain, 1 or multiple products or bundles, and then apply pricing adjustments on them. And then those pricing adjustments can have a time limitation behind them. So let's see how that looks from the EPC point of view. So here's the same executive internet seasonal promotion. If I look through this, we can see that these are the bundles and the child products that were added when I added that promotion. And if I click into this security essentials one, on the right-hand side, I can see some more details about the product. And if I scroll down a little bit, I will see that here is the adjustment that's applying that price adjustment that we saw in the cart. So here it's 100% off monthly for 24 months. So after 24 months, this would expire and we would get back that standard price of $5 per month. So that was it on promotions. I wanted to show the pricing plan as well. So I'll open the pricing plan. Out of box, you have one pricing plan that's called default pricing plan. And then under the pricing plan, you have the pricing plan steps. And then here is where you can see the sequence of them, which is determined by the sequence field, whether they're active or not, and then what is the Apex class and method for them. So in this case, I just have all of the out-of-box steps, but if I wanted to write my own Apex class and method, I would do that. add a new step and have it reference that class and method here. And then when the industry CPQ pricing runs, you would see that that step gets executed and it would influence the price. All right, so that was for pricing. All right, so let's talk about rules and interfaces. So in terms of rules and interfaces, we'll talk about rules first. In Industry CPQ, we have two flavors of rules. There are context rules and advanced rules. Both of them do very similar things, but there's a little bit of difference between them. So context rules let you determine which products, promotions, and pricing appear in the cart. Context rules were released more recently and advanced rules are older. Advanced rules allow you to do compatibility, pricing, availability, eligibility, but I would say nowadays they're used for just a few specific use cases. Otherwise, you generally default to using context rules. So we'll talk about context rules in a bit more detail. So for context rules, the structure is we have a rule set, which contains a grouping of rules. The rules contain conditions, which can be simple or functions, and then they are tied to products, promotions, price lists, or price list entries. So let's say we have a rule. A rule could be something like if the customer's account's SLA is set to gold, then that would be the condition behind the rule. You can have multiple conditions as well. So we basically have conditions, one or multiple, that are tied to a rule. The rule is contained within a rule set that can contain one or multiple rules. And then that rule set is tied to a product, promotion, price list entry, etc. And during the demo, in a few moments, I will show an example of limiting a promotion based on a rule set. And then the important part is that these context and advanced rules will filter what products you see and promotions you see in the cart. And the way it works is you have the products that are defined in EPC. You'll see the products that are orderable, where the active flag is set, where the effectivity dates defined on the product are, match the date on the order, and they have to have a price on the price list. All of those products will then be passed through the context rules. All of the ones that pass the context rules will then be passed to the advanced rules. And then all of the ones that pass the advanced rules are the ones that you would see as qualified on the cart. And then we're just talking about products here, but basically the same pattern applies for price lists, promotions, and price list entries and pricing adjustments as well. And then interfaces as well. So back to the customization topic, like let's say we want to do some kind of advanced rules that don't fit in with our, complex rules that don't fit in with our context or advanced rules. The configurable functionality doesn't fit. Or if we want to write a context function, the way we can do that is writing our own interface implementation. The really cool thing from a developer point of view is a lot of industry cloud functionalities work based on these interfaces, and the managed package will provide a bunch of standard ones, and then you can override them with your custom ones where needed. So to give an example, the whole pricing engine is determined by this pricing interface, and you can see that there are different interface implementations, and right now the one that's active is this pricing plan service. Let's say that the customizations I can do via the pricing plan steps aren't enough. I need to completely customize pricing. You actually have the flexibility of doing that by writing your own pricing interface, setting it as active, and then whenever Industry CPQ invokes the pricing, it will run your code instead of the out-of-box one and do whatever you want there. So a couple notable examples here are the pricing interface, which I just spoke through. And also there's the rules interface, which is called the product validation interface. So let's say that you need to build your own kind of rules framework, context rules, advanced rules don't fit. You can write your own Apex class for that, that implements this interface, create a record here, set it to active, and then whenever the rules engine runs within CPQ, it will run your Apex rather than the out-of-box functionality. So let me show how this works in action. So let me show our promotion again. Okay, so this is the same promotion we just looked at a moment ago. If I go to the context rules tab here, you can see that this promotion actually has a context rule on it. This is a rule set. Unfortunately, as of the current release, you cannot, you can assign rule sets to a promotion and product through the designer, but you cannot modify the rule set itself unless you go to the product council. So we'll switch to there in just a moment. So let's remember this, the customer SLA rule set, and I'll open product council and we'll take a quick look. So over here, I'll go to rule set and open that rule set, the customer SLA rule set. So we can see that this rule set is of type qualification. So this determines, if the promotion is qualified or not, meaning does it show up as addable on the cart or not, and availability, meaning it determines whether that product is available or not. The rule set is just a grouping mechanism for rules, and the rules contain the actual logic behind it. So here we just have one rule, this account SLA is gold. I'll click into this. I'll go to the condition. So the condition is where we actually define what's happening. And here we can see that the condition is saying that if the account SLA is gold, then that means that this condition is satisfied. If this condition is not satisfied, it will fail, and then the product will not be qualified. The promotion will not be qualified, and we won't be able to add it. So here we can see the context dimension is the account SLA, and it matches the value gold, and we can see the different pick list values here. So this context dimension, like what is this actually matching to within Salesforce? Let's take a look. If I go here and go to the context dimension, I'll open this account SLA. I'll look at the context mapping. We can see that it's mapping against this field on the account object. So the scope determines which object it's looking for, and then this expression determines which field it's looking at. So here it's basically, like, to translate this into English, it's basically saying if the account's SLA field is set to gold, then this promotion will be qualified, meaning it shows in the cart. If it's anything besides gold, it will not be qualified. It will not be seen in the cart. So let's take a look at how this actually works. I'll go back to my order, delete my promotion. Remove my other products from it. Okay, so now we have an empty order. If we look here under promotions, I can still see my executive internet seasonal promotion. So let's go back to my account. And if I go to edit here, what I'll do is I'll change this SLA field that's driving that, that rule. So here we can see that the SLA is set to gold, meaning that that would satisfy the condition. We can add the promotion. Let me change it to silver instead. So I updated the SLA. Now what we expect is that the promotion will not be qualified. I will not see it in the cart for me to be able to add it. So I'll refresh the cart just to make sure it picks up that change. If I look under my promotions tab under qualified, I can see that my executive promotion is missing. If I look under disqualified here, I'll see, okay, it's disqualified. I see the promotion. I can't add it to the cart, and it tells me, sorry, only available for gold customers. So that is a context rule in action. Again, the same thing can be done on the products themselves. It can be done on price lists if you have various price lists. So it's quite powerful. All right. I also wanted to show one example of an advanced rule so you can get a feel for what that's used for. So we have one advanced rule configured in the system that's for a recommendation. So when I add this consumer landline product in the cart, you'll see that I get this message here saying consumer landline recommends unlimited weekend calls, and I get the same message up here. So this is called a recommendation rule, which is a flavor of advanced rule. So these allow you to like automatically add a product based on another product, automatically remove a product based on another product, recommend different products, that sort of thing. And then the way a recommendation rule works specifically is if I add the product that it recommends, then this message will go away. So I'll search for unlimited weekend calls, add that to my cart. And we can see the message goes away because we've added the recommended product. So let me show you what that looks like from the design point of view. So I open the product relationship tab. I open the relationship that's corresponding to that recommends rule. And I can see that here, the recommends rule is basically saying that this product recommends this product. And then we have a description so we can see the details here. And then if I click into this relationship type, we can see that there are a few other options like auto add, which would be like, if I add consumer landline, it would automatically add unlimited weekend. We can have auto remove, which does the opposite. We can have excludes, which will say, sorry, like these two products are not compatible, that sort of thing. And finally, one more thing I wanted to show was the interface implementations to show how you can customize all of this stuff. So in terms of interface implementations, let me show you all. These are all of the interfaces in the system. You can see that there are quite a lot. We'll just pick a couple of them for looking into right now. The pricing interface, when CPQ runs the pricing engine, it's actually invoking this interface. And then this interface is this implementation is the pricing plan service, which just runs through that pricing plan step by step. If you wanted to customize this functionality, you would write your own Apex class, create a new record under implementation details, set it to active, and you're good to go. And similarly for the rules, let's say you wanted to build your own rules framework, you could write your own Apex class. Inside of the Apex class, you support some new type of rule. You create a new record here, set that to active, and then the that Apex class would run. And you can reference the other implementations. So let's say that you still want to use advanced rules, context rules. You can reference the default implementation and have your functionality as well. And all three can work together. All right, so let me just wrap up with a couple more topics. So I know that was a lot of content and probably you didn't absorb everything, but I just wanted to give you a feel for what are the different functionalities that exist. What is the concept of design time? Like, how do I configure this stuff in the system? And then what does it look like at runtime for a sales rep? Communications Cloud and the other former Vlocity clouds have a lot of other functionalities as well. We won't have time to talk through them today, maybe in a future session, but just to touch on a couple other points that I haven't talked about before. You may be thinking like, within the communications industry, there's probably a standard way of modeling products. There's a standard way of building the flow of like opportunity to quote, to order, to contract, that sort of thing. There are some pre-built applications called Enterprise Sales Management, which is for B2B, and Mobile Subscription Management, which is for B2C. These are pre-built applications that include, OmniScripts or like end-to-end flows that your users go through. They include various products, potentially pre-built integrations. You can configure and customize all of that stuff. So this is a way to like jumpstart your implementation rather than having to build all of the products, build all of the flows by yourself. There's change of plans, multi-site quoting and ordering, which I talked about before. Another thing that comes up on a lot of projects is catalog publishing. Catalog publishing is, you define your products in Salesforce EPC, but you also want to send them downstream to another system or maybe upstream to another system. So Let's say you want to publish your catalog to a third-party website that you show, that your customers go to view the products. You can build your own catalog publishing mechanism. Let's say that you also want to publish from Salesforce EPC downstream to some of your downstream systems that do fulfillment. You can build that kind of publishing of the products, the pricing, all of that sort of thing. Another question that I saw in the chat earlier is how do we deploy all of this stuff? So it's great that we can configure it in a sandbox, but how do we get it to other sandboxes and eventually into production? That is done through a tool called Industry DX Workbench or Industry DX CLI. So Industry DX Workbench is a GUI tool that enables developers to extract and deploy products and all of their dependency via clicks rather than code. So the way it would work is, let's say I wanted to deploy my 2021 price list and I don't know, that executive promotion. That promotion itself contains these 3 bundles, which contain these like 20 child products that references all of these price list entries, a bunch of different dependencies. These are all data in the system. This tool understands how EPC, like the relationship of all of the objects. So you can simply select, I want this promotion. It will pull all of its dependencies, deploy that to another environment, for example, another sandbox or production, run the jobs for you so that you're good to go and you can use those products. And this is different than a deployment with standard Salesforce because all of this is data rather than metadata. There's also the command line version if you want to automate this via your favorite CI/CD tool. And there are third-party tools like Capado that have pre-built integration to Industry DX. So you can leverage like the Capado user interface and it knows how all of the industry metadata looks like and how to deploy it. So the final piece that I have for you guys today is how can you get enabled? So, in this hour and a half, I try to cover as much content as possible, try to give you a sneak peek. Try to at least touch all of the topics that would be covered in the CPQ developer certification, but definitely not to the level that you would need to pass the certification or start on your first project. So if you're interested in learning more, here is how you can get enabled. So for Industry CPQ developer, check out Vlocity University. Here in this link, let me post in the chat actually. If you are a partner, employee, or customer, it doesn't matter whether it's Salesforce Industries or just Salesforce, you can request access to the success community and to Vlocity University. Through there are courses where you can go through the course. It will cover 100% of the content on the certification and pretty much have you ready to go on your first project. So that's one option. Another option is if you like live sessions like this, where you can see a demo, ask the instructor questions, that sort of thing. You can schedule instructor-led training. This is done through Trailhead. If you're interested, reach out to your Salesforce account team. The content of the exam is covered in the training course. So if you go through the whole Vlocity University course or the instructor-led training, do the hands-on exercises, you will pass no problem and you will for sure be ready for your first project. But I do recommend that you do all of the hands-on exercises because it's a lot to cover and kind of hard to do on purely theoretical knowledge. If you're interested in any of the other former Vlocity topics, there are Omni Studio Developer and Consultant. These are now available on Trailhead and you can spin up your own org with Omni Studio and go through exercises. So check that out on Trailhead. And finally, for the other former Vlocity certifications, these are safe harbor moving to Trailhead, but they haven't moved yet. Stay tuned in the next months or years to see all of those get moved over. So if you're interested in Vlocity Order, or sorry, Industry Order Management, Insurance, or the other certifications, these are currently, the training is offered through Vlocity University and the exams are through Vlocity Web Assessor, but stay tuned for that to move to Trailhead at some point. And again, this link I just posted in the chat. If you are a partner or a customer, you can get access to the community university where you can spin up your own org, go through all of this great content and get certified and get ready for your first project. So lots of slides, lots of content. I hope you guys learned something useful, took away a few points. I know that we're over time, but I'm available for the next 15 to 30 minutes. So does anyone have any burning questions that you want to ask live before we start going through the chat?
So
feel free to go off mute.
Feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hey, Georgi, this is Deepika. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hey, Deepika, how are you?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for this amazing presentation. It was really informative. So I had one question, like there are multiple settings that we see in the CMT administration app that needs to be configured for CPQ. So would you like to mention any in particular which might help with the performance? So just as a background, I was working on a project that had about 95 quote line items, and I could see there were issues with the performance of the card because of such a huge bundle. So is there something which you could recommend that we should keep in mind?
Yeah, maybe I can highlight a few of the useful settings to look at. So I would say this is probably outside of the scope of the certification, but something that's useful to know for projects. So a lot of the industry CPQ performance is driven by different custom settings and also the complexity of your products and pricing. So a few of the important ones to check first are the cache related ones. So Industry CPQ uses the platform cache to cache some of the data, and there's also a custom object that acts as cache as well. If you go to the CMT administration, this is where you run the maintenance jobs, and go to this CPQ configuration setup. You can see that we have this cache enabled job. Make sure that it's set to true. And I didn't prepare for this ahead of time, so I don't remember the other settings off the top of my head, but let's see. Here are a couple other good ones. So delta price and delta validate are there good ones to look at as well. These will, when you add a product, it will price only that product or only the thing that you're changing rather than the whole cart. So if you have like many products in the cart, but you're only adding or changing, one or a few of them, this delta price and delta validate can help you.
All right. Yeah,
there are other optimizations you can do depending on your use case as well. Like let's say you don't use adjustments at all in your implementation, you can just disable that pricing plan step, and then that will save some calculation, which will improve your performance. And I would say another thing to consider as well is the complexity of your products. Just due to the way that Salesforce is, that it's a software as a service, the more line items you have, the more things that you need to price, the more things you need to run the rules engine on, the longer the response times will be. So a simple bundle with like 5 products will be faster than a complex bundle with like, 5 levels of products and like 200 products within it. So another option is you can see if you can, simplify your products themselves for them to be more performant.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'll take a look into this.
Yeah, and I would recommend looking at the documentation and looking through this CPQ configuration setup. It talks about most of these settings and what they do and if they impact performance. So a good thing to do would just be able to scan through these, see if they're set to the recommended values, and see how you can optimize them.